Hey, welcome to the DC Shoot Off Podcast. We're back for episode 3, and happy Pride Month to everybody. And we've got Alex. Is it Henning? How do you pronounce your last name? Henninger? Henninger?
Henninger.
Henninger.
Like the beer you've never heard of out of Frankfurt, Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that.
I always thought it was Henninger for some reason. It's weird.
No, Henninger.
Henninger.
Yeah.
How did I say it?
I think you actually pronounced it correctly, Tyler. So good on you. I was listening to him like, damn, he mispronounced his name. I'm glad I asked though. So we've got Alex here to talk about a product that he put together recently that kind of showcases some great storytelling, and he's our first guest. He also happens to be the test audience for our first episode. He gave us some great feedback on it, and we look forward to it. And don't forget, it's all play.
We're gonna get some quick housekeeping out of the way. If you don't already know, the DC Video Shoot-Off is gonna be August 22nd through the 25th in Arlington at the Hilton Garden Inn Courthouse, Arlington. If you haven't already registered, you can go to dcvideoshootoff.org and register you and tell all your friends. Cool. Take it away.
So, Alex, you've been to workshops before. In fact, you and I met at the Army Reserve workshop back in, oh man, what was that?
2019, 2020, maybe 2018.
Sounds about yeah. It would have had to be 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, definitely pre-COVID, but yeah.
Pre-COVID and post me leaving the Air Force. So it's either 2018 or 2019. I feel like 2019, but. In any case, it's unfortunate you haven't been able to get out to the DC video shoot off, but have you been there as a student, as a workshops? Have you been a student, a mentor, both? What did you get out of it?
So the workshop that where I met you, that was my first time being able to have the opportunity to be a mentor to a team at a workshop, as well as I did a short presentation on graphics in videos. Workshops I've done prior to that, though, the NPPA Multimedia Immersion Workshop, great experience. I went there as a military guy, so with that in mind, the greatest takeaway from it is that you get to, put the military stuff aside, all the administrative stuff, doing PT, the uniform, and then you get to go to a place and completely immerse yourself in storytelling and video, and kind of leave the military on the back burner and focus 100% on the craft, which was phenomenal. And I got to do the same thing again at the Eddie Adams workshop. It was EAW 32. That was more photojournalism than video storytelling, but same principle. Military stuff gets to kind of go on standby for a little bit, and then you just get to focus solely on fine-tuning those skills, learning new things, networking, and then ultimately bringing it all back to your team and passing on what you've learned so that everybody can get better.
So the more military-oriented workshops, like the Army Reserve one that you and I were at, talk to me a little bit about the mentoring side, or the networking side of things. Because I mean, it's been my experience that it's a pretty close-knit community, even beyond branches. Because your Army, I was used to be Air Force. I was civilian at that point. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's an incredibly small career field within the Army, and then certainly across the entire Department of Defense that remains unchanged, if you will. So going to that workshop where everybody can come together under the same roof, and then get to pass on those best practices, lessons learned, things like that, and then probably the best part, in a way, like kind of recharge your own batteries, because you get to see these up and coming service members and the enthusiasm that they have, and the passion for the job at hand, which is, telling the for us, the soldier story, or the airman, whichever branch you happen to come from. It's absolutely refreshing. And then you leave there with a laundry list of more names and phone numbers of people that you can count on if you got a question. People such as yourself, extremely talented. If I ever had a crazy technical question, like I wouldn't even hesitate to hit you up on Facebook or something and be like, Sam, how do I do this? Because I know that or at the very least could point me in the right direction. And I feel like for any of us in the career field, regardless of the branch, that they would do the same.
Absolutely. So we're going to look at one of your video products here. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into photo video, where you're at right now, and introduce this video a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I started my career in the Wisconsin National Guard. Was in there for 10 years as military police. Switched to active duty, and being in public affairs now, this is my third MOS, my third job within the Army. Photo, video type thing started, long before, I switched to active duty. It was a hobby of mine, and when I switched to active duty, I was a Special Forces candidate, 18 X-ray, if you will. Didn't make it. Obviously, here I am. Became needs of the Army, and kind of just like that, the worst day of my life turned into the greatest opportunity that I never knew that I wanted. And since then, I haven't worked a day in my life. Like, I wake up and legitimately look forward to coming to work and seeing what projects we got going on. Even now that I'm a Sergeant First Class at E7, in more of a managerial position. But I've learned though that if you just get efficient and good at taking care of those responsibilities, then you can create time and opportunity to get back to really the core of the career field, which is storytelling. In my case, looking to mentor and teach those around me, as well as when the opportunity presents itself, grab a camera and go tell stories myself as well. That's where my heart's at. So I'll always find a way to keep doing it.
Fantastic. Sounds like you haven't stopped doing personal projects either.
No, there's always something going on, always something new to try.
Absolutely. I found that personal projects really help. This is a personal project for me, and it kind of recharges your batteries a little bit, like you were talking about with workshops, where lets you kind of break away from what you do day in and day out and try something new.
Yeah.
So you're at American Forces Network, or AFN, in Europe. For those who haven't done the AFN thing, what's that like?
Yeah, man, it's really cool. Being an AFN Vicenja, we're away from the flagpole, if you will. Like, I'm the senior ranking guy in this country for this unit, which is fun. It's I don't know. It's a great feeling to know that, my senior leadership, have that faith and confidence in me to, kind of be down here as a solo actor with my team and just make stuff happen. Get things done. But we use radio, primarily radio, and then produce some content for social media and AFN TV, all to connect, inform, and entertain our hyper-local community here of about 17,000 service members, dependents, local nationals, contractors, et cetera, insert motivational statement here, that sort of thing, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, for those that don't know, that the widely known movie Good Morning Vietnam, that is talking about AFN, probably get a lot of references to that, people finding out about you for the first time. Tyler, have you ever been AFN?
I have. I was, before I joined the Air Force, I was an intern at AFN Okinawa for 6 months, and then when I was stationed over in Okinawa, we went over for 1 month stints to learn how to do all that stuff in case that was one of our future duty stations.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never been on that side of the world.
I was photo the entire time I was active duty, either photo or photojournalist. So, AFN was never in my future, unfortunately. Might have been fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's like anything, for anyone watching, maybe thinking about the military, whatever job you get, it is what you make of it, so it kind of really comes down to you.
Absolutely. So tell us about this piece. How'd you find out about the story? Give us an introduction. We'll talk about the production and the hows and such after we watch, but set the stage.
Yeah, so, at an AFN, like I said before, we connect, inform, entertain. So the units, the organizations here, they can request our services, if you will, and that is what happened. There was a girls basketball competition type event going on, and they made a request. And so my operations NCO, she came to me and said, hey, there's this request. I don't really know what to do with it. We don't really have anyone available, so I looked at my schedule, and I was like, I'll do it. It was on a Saturday, and it was kind of a last minute ask, and I'm not a fan of throwing something at my folks last minute. It happens sometimes, so, there's no way around it, but this was not one of those times. So I told them about it, said, hey, does anybody want it? Because again, I am in that, station manager position now. So the last thing I want to do is take an opportunity away from one of my junior service members. But no one wanted it, so I took it. And it started with a phone number, and that phone number was for the coach of the Vicenja High School girls basketball team. So I called him and just started asking a lot of questions, like what was the event, and kind of learned all about that. And then finally, I asked, who do you think would be a good player, one of the players on your teams to talk to? And he's like, oh, Maya, hands down. And then from that point, I just kind of switched into that, like 3-year-old mode of asking why a million times. Like, oh, that's interesting. Why? Tell me why. What is it about her? And that's where this story came from. So from a phone number to just calling and being curious, about what was going on and, who he thought would be, because, he knows his people better than I do. I don't know him at all. So, and then we kind of went from there.
Excellent. So we'll take a watch of this. For those of you who are tuning in from Apple Podcasts, which we are officially now on, I'll post a link to this in the description. But if you are watching on Spotify or YouTube, you'll be able to watch this embedded in the video. Let's take a look.
I have this awful story, and my coach brings it up every time.
So Maya was a new player as a 9th grader, hadn't really had any experience with the game.
It was my freshman year, so it was like my 3rd game I've ever played.
We were playing a game down in Rome, and she...
I threw the ball, and it went all the way over the backboard.
It just kind of tossed it up in the air.
It was so bad. It was so embarrassing, and my coach brings it up every single time.
In her early days, she was trying to figure a lot of things out. So here as a junior, she's done just that. Today is a Dodea Europe All-Stars event.
It's a selection of 20 girls all across Dodea.
In some ways, it's a showcase kind of event for those that have aspirations to do more with the game after high school. So Maya was picked in the top 20.
I was excited. I told my mom and my dog. His name's Chewy. It was a great feeling.
She's a very impactful player for us. So losing her at the end of the season was a heartbreak for sure.
So about 2 weeks ago, I was shooting a 3-pointer and I just landed wrong.
And just immediately went down and was, she left the scrimmage and went to the local Italian hospital to get diagnosed.
I snapped a ligament in my right ankle. Could be a little while before I'm back out there. I don't want to feel sorry for myself. I think I have spent some time feeling sorry for myself, but more than anything, I just want to be a good leader to my team, and however I can do that on the court, off the court.
Besides basketball, it's just, we're trying to prepare young people for life. and here you are. You love your team, you love being a part of it, you want to compete. This is definitely Maya.
So I talked to my coach, and I've been doing a lot of like the behind the scenes work.
So dealing with adversity, handling things you can't control, taking a step forward anyhow. Those are the types of things that we're trying to teach in our program.
I know it's just high school, but like for all of us, I think I would say it's more than just high school sports.
We're going to start with the slam dunk competition.
Great video, man. Right off the bat.
Thank you.
The sense of timing. I love how you talked through that moment where she was shooting the basketball and actually showed the ball just kind of sail right over the hoop. Just letting the audience experience that was just really great. I really enjoyed how a little bit of tongue in cheek, a little bit of humor, and letting the audience experience it in real time rather than just talking through.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sure the people when I was filming that shot to go with that story were like, "What the hell is he doing?" I was just standing there after like, no, the ball didn't go to the spot I wanted. Let me go over here and try it again. But I'm glad to hear that it worked. That whole thing, like by design, was to grab attention, introduce her as a character as well as her coach, and then hopefully help people connect with her and like her. So that they experience that empathy and want to stick around. Especially at the turning point of the story.
Absolutely. What kind of planning? So did you do like a pre-interview to be able to lay out the story, or did you just kind of roll right into the main interview?
No, so I definitely had the opportunity to do the pre-interview. So what I did after, it was like the day after talking with the coach on the phone, I asked him, I said, well, if you wouldn't mind, just please pass my info on to Maya. And if she's cool with it, if she's, interested in doing this story with me, then, put the ball in her court, if you will. It's a bad pun, given that it's kind of a basketball story. But and she did. She texted me. She said that she was excited to do it and all that stuff. So I said, great. So we coordinated. So I went to the school the next day and met with her. No cameras. I did bring a little audio recorder just so I could meet her, and then we could just chat. And that's the time to explore the story and just kind of ask all those why questions, like hardcore 3-year-old mode. Like, oh, why? Oh, why? But yeah, so, and then I took that and then went home, and then, because I had a little bit of time on this one before the next day of going to film the actual stuff and do the interview, of sitting down and listening to that recording and sort of working out what the story was actually going to be, trying to find that through line, and it was basically, how this young girl or young woman really worked through, having the rug like ripped out from under her when she was like at her, the peak of, her like high school career, if you will, and the way that she chose to stay positive and just give back to her team regardless, of like the negative thing that happened to her, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I think I sent you a photo of the notes I started taking on my little desk whiteboard. I started writing out yeah, there it is. How I was gonna lay out the story. I learned this from a guy named Tony McKinney. He was one of my bosses at DMA, a great guy, but he would always kind come back and be like, just throw together your radio edit, he would say, and then let me hear it. And I was like, oh, it's an interesting way to do it. So it has nothing to do with radio, but it just means taking all the interviews that you have and cutting out all your sound bites and rearranging them and then laying them out in the order that they'll be for the narrative that you're going to tell. And there'll be some gaps, because every time you can, you show instead of tell. But then once you have that and other people can listen, always have people come in and listen. But hey, listen to this. There's a couple gaps, but let me know if this makes sense. Especially asking people to give her a listen that know nothing about the story ahead of time, so I can avoid that privileged information phenomenon. Where it's like I know everything about the story, so it's really easy for me to leave something out in the actual timeline because I know it, but someone else doesn't have that context, so they can clue me into that, if I have a lot of people kind of reviewing as I go, if you will. What was the question?
Yeah. Basically just how you kind of piece together the story, because everybody has their own methods, and each story kind of has their own unique challenges and things that have to be thought through in advance, so that you get all the footage that you need, so that you get all the sound bites that you need. Because short of editing as you're putting the project together, and sometimes that's the way you do it too, you really have to make sure you're getting all of the footage that you need, all of the pieces to tell a good story. And it definitely comes through in the finished product that you did a bit of planning to make all that happen, even down to when she talks about telling her dog Chewy. You've got footage of her dog in there to show, especially it is a little bit comical when you think of Chewie. You think of the big Chewbacca from Star Wars, and it's this
tiny little pocket dog. Yeah. And that was something I discovered in our pre-interview. So I made sure the next morning when we did the actual on-camera one that we talked about that again. And then I asked her. I always ask for footage. That's where I got the historical footage, if you will, of the highlights from playing the games, and then also her with her dog. She got that stuff and sent it to me, which was nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So talk me through some of the challenges that you had on this project.
Oh, man. So I went back to the school twice after I did all the, I guess, principal photography, if you want to call it that, just to redo some of the shots because I didn't like the way they came out. Because when I went initially, I didn't bring my slider with me. It's nothing fancy. It's just an aluminum rail, and then you got to, do all the stuff yourself. But it makes a pretty big difference for some of those shots. And, I'm sure anyone watching could certainly point out when there's a slider shot. But I was trying my hand at doing all that stuff handheld, and it did not work. I was like, I'm definitely going to go back and get this stuff again and do it right. To include the pinwheel in the beginning and the end, I did shoot that stuff the morning of, but it just didn't turn out right the way I wanted, So for that, I had to wait a couple days for the weather to be the same, and the clouds to be the same, because I wanted it to match and be faithful to what actually took place. But then went back, and my wife was like, "Wait, you're getting more footage? Like what?" I was like, "No, I need to redo this shot because it's going to drive me nuts if I don't." So that was a challenge, But fortunately, it's a 5-minute drive down the road from where we're at, so it was easy to go do it.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that one of those slider shots was the looking up at the ceiling of the gymnasium. Because I noticed, especially when you have a geometric shape like that, you really do want that perfectly linear movement, because otherwise it's obvious. It's really obvious if you're not moving in a perfectly linear, perfectly smooth kind of way.
Yeah, and you lose that.
Recognizing those limitations.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because you can lose that suspension of disbelief. Not that you really have that with this because it is a true story, but it can just pull you out of what you're watching, and then you're like, ooh, like, what the hell, is the guy drunk with the camera? Like, what's going on here, you know? So, yeah.
I'm always cursing myself at the airport when I'm having to cart all the gear I have around.
Oh,
but
yeah. That's
never disappointed at the shoot when I have
It's
all the gear
absolutely
that
a thing.
I want to use.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you're never mad when you get there and you have all
And
the tools.
every time I don't bring, a great example is I went to Edwards a few months ago and took a smaller tripod with me. I didn't know at the time we were going to be able to film like this new plane taking off and landing. That tripod was not working.
Yeah.
Like,
Not up to the task.
no, I have a Sackler like Flowtech, like a nice
Ooh.
video tripod, but I took one of the smaller ones because I didn't want to carry that all the way across the country. And I wish I had. It was a mistake.
I've got that same tripod. I love that thing.
I love that tripod. It's so good.
That tripod is on my list.
Man, the
Yeah, it's
ability
on my
to
list.
change leg heights with one button instead of three, and
Oh yeah,
Right.
like the speed
FSB
and
head.
efficiency, baby, all the way, all the way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially when you have speed and it doesn't degrade quality or anything. That's a no-brainer. Of course, that
honestly,
usually also costs money, but you know.
it is bigger and a little heavier than the smaller tripod, but it's not a lot heavier because it's a pretty lightweight.
It's really not. Yeah, it's a carbon fiber, so it's not bad.
There's a guy, Luke Forsyth is his name. He's a documentary cinematographer. I just started like watching him like crazy on YouTube, and he has that tripod. And the first video I saw was he was sharing a story of how that tripod took a bullet when he was shooting something for like a Mexican cartel type story, you know, and it still works just fine. He's, you know, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
I don't know if the one I have could take a bullet or not, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
wouldn't test that theory.
No.
No desire to test it out, but it was a fun story for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I know when I was watching this, one of my big critiques was the dang it. I was trying to do this smoothly and I failed. So one of my big critiques watching this is you did both interviews in the same spot, looking the same direction. Now, normally, especially if I have two interview subjects, I will try to put one facing camera left, one facing camera right, and kind of change up the position at least a little bit. You know, having similar location, but just to change it up a little bit, so it almost looks like they're talking to each other rather than just swapping places. So what was the decision process with the interview setup, and was that something you were just based on time you weren't able to change it out?
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it was time. So right behind where I was, there was another room where all the basketball players from across Dodea, Europe were sleeping and actively starting to wake up and make their way across the gym. So I had about an hour, you know, before they were all going to start practicing and warming up on the court to do both of these interviews. So, you know, time was sort of not on my side with that, even though I got there at like 7 a.m. to do, you know, and I got there earlier than that to set up. But, and then as far as the way I edited them, I've learned this about myself. It's something I like to do a lot, where I'll take interviews and I'll have somebody finish someone else's sentence. You know, I find that that helps keep pacing really, really high. And so keeping like eye trace in mind with that, you know, if they were constantly jumping back and forth, especially if those shots are showing for a very, very short amount of time, I wouldn't want that to be like confusing, or, you know, have something happen and people are wait, hold up, it's switching too fast. But I do agree.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
I do agree though with like a different background though, you know, because I, you know, maybe could have done him after the game was over, like in his office, you know, something more, you know, coachly, if you will. But yeah, no, yep, that's a good point, you know, and that would have changed it up visually, and because I mean, interview backgrounds can serve as part of like, you know, your storytelling as well, you know. So what else could we have learned about Coach Greg based on the background, you know, if we maybe went to his office instead. So
yeah, I always kind of treat interview shots like portraits. So, they can be a nice tight portrait, but they can also be a very character-driven environmental portrait. The same rules that apply to portraiture, lighting, composition, all of that transfers right over to interview shots. But I hadn't thought of that whole idea of with them finishing each other's sentences, how visually jarring it would have been if they were in different parts of the frame. That is really, wouldn't have thought about that. That actually makes a lot of sense and is a solid reason to have it shot that way.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how long, that shot is on screen, because I think some of them were less than 2 seconds. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, that's kind of where my thought process was, mixed with the fact that I was running out of time, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, time seems to never be on our side. I know I was getting ready
part of
for
the fun,
right. I was doing pre-production for a recent project, and they're like, "So how much time do you want with the kids?" I'm like, I am always going to ask for more. Like, I will take however much time you can give me, and I will use all of it. I don't think I've ever been in a situation like, wow, man, I wish I hadn't asked for so much time. I don't think that's ever happened. What about you, Tyler? Or Alex?
Yeah, Tyler, you first. I've been talking a
lot. Particularly with shoots for the military. I never have enough time to do anything that I want to do. It's also important to be flexible because it's a very good chance whatever it is you had planned will change as soon as you get there.
So. Fair. Totally fair.
Yeah, I think it's a famous military quote of no plan survives first contact.
True. Facts.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate rushing. So some of my crew hate this about me too, but I'd rather show up hours early, even though I know we can get it done in 30 minutes, like with live stream stuff, but it's when something goes wrong, it's usually not a simple fix, and you're suddenly glad that you still have like an hour or two before, you kick off, so to speak.
Live streaming especially.
Yeah.
I mean, we're usually setting up the day before to be able to really run down any issues. And one thing that, as you were saying, live streaming, it's usually not a quick fix. Sometimes it means going back to the shop and grabbing another piece of gear or something like that, and you want to leave enough time to do that.
Yeah,
I was going to say
absolutely.
always plan time for troubleshooting and some piece of gear not where you thought it was, where it is, that kind of stuff.
And something to think about too for folks listening that are in the military and have our people on a team. If you build it, it's always really hard in our career field to take time to do training. Because we do our actual job every day, so it's really hard to hold up, time out. We're not doing any real world stuff. We just need this day to train. I haven't been many places, but everywhere I've ever been, it's always very challenging to try to do that. So if you just build that extra time, even if it's only an extra hour, into something you're going to do anyway for a real world shoot, for example, that interview, you could bring somebody else with that maybe doesn't know how to use those lights, and then you can give them some hip pocket training on how to light an interview, right then and there. And then by the time you're done, you got your interview set up. You got to do some training with your folks, they got to learn some stuff. And then you move on and actually start the actual shoot, you just got to get creative to do those things sometimes.
Absolutely. Any opportunity you have to collaborate with other people, take it.
Yeah.
Our career field asks us to be one-man bands a lot, and that's not a thing they ask of people outside of the military or government service.
No, not at all.
I mean, it depends on the industry. If you're talking journalism, there's still a lot of one-man band stuff, but production is that's a team sport. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one thing I like to do back when I was active duty, that I learned from all these workshops was, as the NCOIC of internal, I would sometimes go with the airmen and be their grip, just kind of help them out and be there to offer suggestions and help them problem solve, but not direct. And sometimes that's a cool way that a more experienced person can relay knowledge, while still empowering that junior service member or junior person to still make the decisions, find those problems themselves, and then just help guide them through the solution.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Totally agree.
So Tyler, any other things you're thinking of regarding the video? Anything that stood out to you as cool or could use work or otherwise?
Outside of what you talked about, I really love the rhythm with which you edited that video. I think it flowed really well, especially for a story that, back when I was working at AFN, that could have been like a 45-second quick little news story, and I think you did a lot of work to take it up a level, which is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. People often ask, I've got some new people, reclasses right out of the schoolhouse here, and they'll get an assignment, and they're like, well, I don't know what to film, what should I film? It's like, you just film whatever they're doing. Like if you break down Maya, the story, she's like, cutting tape and hanging up flyers and stuff, it's like, and then you just find interesting ways to film it. I don't know, try to show it from a perspective. Yeah, exactly. It's like whatever they're doing, that's what you're going to film.
Absolutely.
That's part of my pre-interview process is like, so tomorrow when I come and we do the interview, after that, what can I expect to see you doing? Like, what's your role going to be until, you start helping to judge during the actual competition? She's like, well, I'll probably just help set up, maybe put up some flyers or something like that. So then I can sort of pregame in my mind, how I want to, build out my camera or what other tools I might want to bring with to be able to get the best shots possible while being as, without getting in the way, That's the one thing about this. You can't say, wait, stop, I'm not ready, So you just got to get it, so.
That's why it's important to be, if possible, communicating with your subject, because you can be like, hey, where are you about to put the next flyer? And you can go get set up so you're ready for when they get there, instead of trying to, in real time, get good, stable shots while they're doing something that takes 4 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another thing that can help with that a lot, too, is just looking for repetitive action, pulling tape off the reel. It's like, I bet she's going to do that again. Let me frame up this shot super tight, and then... And you're absolutely right. If she doesn't, be like, hey, could you pull another piece of tape? Because they already did it. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing that I sometimes see with people new to this profession, especially for journalistic type work, is they're so concerned with crafting a story that they start to shape the story themselves rather than letting the subject shape the story. What do you do to try and keep yourself out of the story and be true to your subject?
Oh, that's a really good question. I just try to leave them alone and just kind of be a fly on the wall mentality. Mm-hmm. If you have the luxury of a pre-interview and they can tell you oh yeah, tomorrow I'm going grocery shopping. It's like, oh, okay, grocery shopping. But at the same time, Tyler, like you said, just being flexible and prepared because, Sam, like you said, it's going to change. It'll absolutely change. And I think that's when these things get interesting, especially when you're trying to film a story as it's legitimately unfolding. With this thing with Maya, that already happened. Now let's look back at the original request that was made to us here at AFN Vicenja, which was the school wanted to showcase this girls basketball competition that they were doing, an event. Stories aren't about events. They're about, no one gives a crap about events. They care about people. So I always challenge my folks to like, hey, whatever the event is, because it's always an event, it seems, a ceremony or a 4th of July festival. It's like, find a person and tell the story, something about them, set against the backdrop of that event. Use the event as like your visual conduit to move you from a point A to a point B. Like 4th of July, find a kid who maybe has never seen fireworks before, or this is their first 4th of July in Italy, and then tell the story of the 4th of July through their perspective, as opposed to just going and it being a, standard, typical montage of everything that happened at the 4th of July. Like, are you checking the box if you do that? Yeah, absolutely. And there is a place for montage. It's a fantastic tool and editing technique. It's way overused in the military,
Nah,
but
that doesn't sound like the military.
Right?
They never want us to do Hua videos.
But yeah, no. So yeah, that's how I try to, not influence the stories. Just fly on the wall, and sometimes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say another thing you can do when you get to follow a subject. I wasn't paying attention close enough to notice was she wearing a mic when you were following her around? Did you mic her up?
No.
So if you're following around a specific person and you mic them up, now you can also listen to what they're saying and figure out, like, you don't have to interrupt them to figure out what they're going to do next, because a lot of the time they'll talk to somebody or even to themselves sometimes, and you can figure out.
And as a best practice, like, you totally should. If you're just following one person exclusively, mic them up. I should have, and maybe I missed some really good stuff as a result.
A little harder with these tiny fake video cameras that we all shoot with now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to have a shotgun on camera and then, if possible, a mic on somebody that we're following, but it doesn't always work out that way. So
a solution that I have found for that is I use this. I don't remember what it's called. I can pull it out of my case. It's right behind me. But it's a lavalier microphone that records internally, 32-bit float, meaning it can't clip.
Nice.
So that's what I use. And then because you don't get, 2 independently controlled channels into a mirrorless or DSLR.
Right.
So it's like one or the other. And it's like, well, I don't like that, because if you got your scratch audio from on the camera, or that's also your backup in case the other thing just doesn't work for whatever reason. So it's an extra step in post because you got to sync the audio, but with shorter stuff like this, it's not that much extra work,
And some apps are making it super easy, like DaVinci Resolve. You just select all of your clips, no matter where they're from, and just be like, sync it all, and it will sync everything and create its own new clips, replacing audio and doing all that sort of stuff.
Really?
I'm guessing with the mics,
do you
you're
need
talking.
time code for that? I'm sorry.
No, you don't.
Really?
Oh wow!
Really? Yeah, it does it based off of
Say
audio.
less.
Yeah, so
I've
like
done it
if you
with time
have
code. I didn't know
if you
the
have a
audio
folder that has all of your audio recorder or 32-bit float audio and your video clips, you can just select everything, and if it finds a match, it'll swap out the audio and give you synced audio.
Wow! I usually do it one clip at a time.
No, like it literally, like one big folder. It will. Yeah, I tried that one time and I was like, where has this been all my life?
Yeah,
for real. So I've done that in Resolve when I had time code for everything, because it will just you can literally just select the entire thing and be like, sync it by time code, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, it'll do it by audio as well.
Is that available in the like the free version?
I'm sure
or
it
do
is.
you have to buy the full license? I think the full license is just for like 8K editing. Or something,
it gives
right?
you the higher
full
resolution.
license is for higher resolution 10-bit, and if you want their noise reduction.
Oh, and
there's
10-bit. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of other I think their AI tools are in the studio version. There's some other like higher end filters and effects like deflicker for time lapses. A lot of their like lens rendering flares and stuff like that are in the studio version. But I would bet money that the syncing thing is in the free version.
Yeah,
But
I have it downloaded, and I keep meaning to, like, okay, the next project I'm just going to force myself to use DaVinci because I really want to learn it. And I keep going back to Premiere. So
if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Tyler or me. I know we both use DaVinci Resolve pretty extensively. And there's always new things to learn.
I will definitely do that.
Obviously.
Last piece of the talking about the video, I know since we all kind of work in the public affairs realm, we're not just storytellers, but we are storytellers with meaning and trying to insert the command messages and things like that in there. Was there a command message you were trying to weave into that piece, and how did you do that?
Yeah, so even without like the coach sort of like saying it at the end, I think it's pretty evident through Maya's behavior and her choices, given the negative thing that like happened to her, and that's just like what that the DODEA, Department of Defense education activity, like what that basketball program here at the Vicenja High School was really all about, and I straight up asked him, I said, playing the games and the competition is one thing, but like, what's this program like really about, and that's where he hit the nail on the head, with building, confidence and resilience in the young kids, that are in these programs, and helping them to make friends and work through adversity and things like that. And I think what happened to Maya and the way she dealt with it is like all the evidence you need that, the guy's not lying. He's not blowing smoke up our asses, so to speak, pardon my language. Because it's all evident. It's all right there, even without him saying it, just by virtue of her story. Like you kind of get to check that box, without forcing it, which I thought was really nice and refreshing. Nothing worse than, trying to like force a narrative, if you will, that doesn't exist, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the same sort of thing that you're talking about with, them wanting to have the event talked about. Oftentimes it's better if you set a story that has that as a background, that has that as a theme already, or it's just kind of this thing that weaves in throughout the whole story, rather than just trying to beat people over the head with it and doing it that way. But yeah,
I had $1 for every time I had an argument with a public affairs person about not hitting people over the head with command messaging. It's not necessary. I'd be a very rich man.
Well,
and I usually lose. I usually lose those arguments, but.
Well, and it insults the intelligence of your audience too.
Also, people don't want to feel like they're being preached at or being told what to do.
Yeah, and it's just a shitty story, if you do that. So
yeah, your story would have not been watchable if. And this shows her resilience because this and this.
We're out here today to build the confidence and resilience of these, young patriots. It's like, get out of here, Yeah. Done. Moving on. Continue the death scroll or, what have you. So,
no.
Yeah.
So,
nobody has
I thought it was a
that.
nice story that hits pieces that are going to be important to your command, even if it's not right in your face. I actually think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree. Yeah. Definitely shouldn't be like right in the face.
Definitely a good piece. Thanks for sharing it.
My pleasure.
It was interesting here you talk about. I'm sorry, Sam.
You're good.
My brain processes things slower. I thought it was interesting here you talk about getting to go back and get shots and like reshoot some things. Has it been a while since you've been out and shot? I'm guessing.
I definitely don't do it as much as I would like to, or as much as I used to, because it's not like my job at all.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So in my gig, I get to shoot for like a week every couple of months, typically, or a week or two. So like the first couple of days, I'm like, man, I feel like I didn't remember how to do all this exactly the way I used to. And then by the end of the shoot, I'm like in a groove. I wish I'd been shooting like this on Monday when we interviewed whoever. But, you know, Sam and I, in our jobs, we don't get the opportunity to go back and shoot things because a lot of times we're traveling. So you get what you get. But I think that's an interesting thing to talk about because most of the people in our career field are shooting the things that are right there on their base. And if you don't get it right the first time, it's okay to go back and try to do it better.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
just think that was an important thing to hit. I can't tell you how many things this last year I wish I could go back and reshoot some things.
Yeah.
And so when you have the opportunity, I think you should take it.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
and you can
definitely.
always pitch it to the customer as like, hey, you know, I got the footage, but you know what? I think I can do even better. I want to do your story justice and go shoot this extra piece. Most of the time when you frame it from that perspective, I mean, people aren't going to say no. You know, if they see that you're passionate about storytelling, that you want to, you know, give proper respect to their story, they're going to help you out and they're going to respect what you're doing. They're not going to see it as, well, damn, that guy screwed up. You pitch it as something that's going to ultimately benefit them, and they're going to be more than happy to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So cool. We'll transition a little bit into current events. Current-ish events, since we're recording this Memorial Day weekend, and this probably won't go out until early June. I happened to read an article this morning talking about how Meta is training their AI on publicly posted photos and video on not just Facebook, which we all kind of expected, but Instagram. In fact, let's see, Meta Chief Product Officer Chris Cox said, we don't train on private stuff. We don't train on stuff people share with their friends. We do train on things that are public. And he was saying this to Bloomberg Tech, actually kind of bragging about the fact that their AI model is becoming so good because they're training off of all of this excellent imagery on Instagram. So what do you guys think about that?
Tyler, what do you got?
So if you guys haven't seen it, on Airman Magazine's website, we just finished a giant issue on artificial intelligence in the Air Force. So I've been very into this exact thing for months now. It doesn't shock me that their model's really good, because the way you get a really good model is by giving it lots and lots of really good data, of which Facebook and Instagram has billions, if not trillions, of photos, videos, reels, all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't shock me that their model's good. I am someone who believes all of our data should be licensed and they should have to pay us for that stuff. That's not the world we live in, unfortunately. You were saying, Sam, it seems like you think Instagram's like you expected it on Facebook but not on Instagram. Is that just because visual creators are largely on Instagram, or?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, Facebook has come under fire before with scraping user data. And I don't think anybody is necessarily not expecting it on Instagram, but because there are so many people posting their professional work to try and get customers, there is a little bit of implied trust and implied expectation that we all signed we agree to the terms and conditions that nobody actually reads, but we know that it includes verbiage that says that they can use the imagery and things like that. But for Instagram, which is a platform that attracts, like, a big part of their user base is professionals, people who are professional photographers, professional influencers, professional, you name it. And they're posting their professional work that is copyrighted to that platform with the expectation that they will at least retain a certain amount of ownership of that, to have that data then used in a model that is actively trying to compete with them, that's the betrayal of trust. And especially with Instagram, where it's not like Facebook, where there's lots of different layers of privacy that you can add. Pretty much everything you post is public, unless you are, severely
Direct
restrict
messaging.
your account. But at that point, that's not going to help a photographer or videographer who is trying to advertise their business. They want their stuff to be public. But yeah, to then have that be scraped and used for a model that is trying to be sold as a replacement for them, that rubs me the wrong way.
I mean, to that end, it could be a good thing in the sense that it will drive people away from Instagram, and all of a sudden a pretty big need arises for something new. And I would be very curious to see what the world comes up with to fill that gap. Necessity breeds innovation, so bring on the innovation.
Yeah, it's unfortunate this is kind of par for the course for tech companies. I mean, OpenAI sourced all their information that they taught their model from, I'm not going to say dubious places as if they are illegal or whatever, but definitely did not license all the content that they used to create their ChatGPT, their Sora, their Dolly, all that good stuff. For those of you that want to use a model that does have everything licensed, all of Adobe's comes from their stock licensing stuff. So
yeah, I know there's been some question about that, but yeah, that's been kind of one of the big selling points for Adobe. And full disclosure, Adobe is one of the sponsors of the DC shoot off. But in general, they're
don't use the other models. I'm not saying you can't use the other models. I'm just saying if that's something you care about.
Yeah, that is definitely something that they have been praised for in the past, is that they are really pushing to only use their own stock library that they've already licensed to be able to create that. So that's pretty cool.
I'm curious to know if the licensed language included, we're going to use all your art and photos in a artificial intelligence model.
I don't know.
But,
that's something that would definitely, although I'd like to think that if it wasn't, if that stock footage was being used beyond the original agreement, I would think that there would be some outcry from the artists that are,
for sure. It's probably a blanket license that just gives them the rights forever.
What's the demand? Does anyone know, what is the demand for AI generated product? Is there such a massive horde of folks that no, I want this stuff, I don't want to pay anything for it, so let's get this AI stuff done and over with so that we can get it? Or do you, because even it doesn't matter how good it is if no one's paying for the service,
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I have friends that work at private companies that are video people, and their bosses are pushing for them to use AI models for actors and to make videos instead of having to pay people to make them. Oh,
interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. There's a few different layers of it. There's people who, I know it was part of the big SAG-AFTRA strike that happened, what was it, last year? Where they were trying to renegotiate the actors contracts, because a lot of those contracts were including future use, using full 3D body scans of actors to use them as extras and in other ways, without having to pay additional royalties to that actor, or paying very minimal royalties that would have been way less than actually having them on set. So, there's that. There's, and in fact, I forget which company it was. I think it's OpenAI, came under fire because Scarlett Johansson was approached for a new language model, and she said no multiple times. And then when they launched the language model, I really don't remember which company it is, but
it's OpenAI.
It is.
It was their voiceover, or not their voiceover. It was like a voice assistant.
Yep.
It was called Sky.
Sky, yeah.
Scarlett Johansson says it was based on her voice. They say it's not. It's hard to tell without actually
they
seeing
pulled it
the-
pretty quick after she
They did pull it
challenged
because they don't want to get sued.
Right.
I suspect they base it off of her performance specifically in Her, because that's what it kind of sounds like to me.
Gotcha.
But I don't actually have any of that information. I don't know.
Oh, I
Yeah.
did not
Yeah,
know
they
that
pulled it
that
pretty
was her
quick when she
in that
complained.
movie.
Yeah, and then in photo and video, you're also looking at people who want to quickly kind of create comps and things like that for actual productions. They want to be able to use AI to just help create pre-visualization. That's one big demand for it, because you can create something that looks pretty much finished without actually having to get anybody on set, and that lets you do previs super easily. But there are definitely folks who want to use it for commercial purposes too. So it was interesting that the Supreme Court ruled that AI generated images can't be copyrighted. So that may dissuade some people, but at the same time, a couple of filters and a couple of modifications is all you need to take that non-copyrighted thing and turn it into a copyrighted thing. So there's definitely ways around that.
Yeah, I've used it. I used it in one of the videos that we just put out on Airman Magazine. I basically created I was using Midjourney, create some illustrations. I pulled those illustrations into Illustrator, traced them, changed them up however I wanted them, and then animated them in After Effects. But in terms of like me by hand drawing an F-16 that I'm going to animate, that's not going to happen. So it was something that made it possible for me to make the thing I wanted to without needing to know how to draw.
Yeah, for things like that, like I'm excited for things like that. As another tool, like at our disposal, to help us, tell stories and stuff like that. But yeah, for all those other things, time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah.
Me personally, after seeing some of Sora examples, I'm most worried about like disinformation, like making it seem like people are doing or saying things they're not doing, that kind of stuff.
Especially in an election year.
But Adobe at NAB was showing some of the tools that might be in Adobe soon, and I'm here for it. Like the ability to extend clips a little bit.
Right.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
As military guys, I think, unless they've done it in the last week or so, and I doubt that very much, unless SAFPA or somebody has put out specific guidance on the use of AI tools, which nobody has. I think as the military, it's important for us to think about what is the right way to use these, that kind of stuff. I would take issue with people using them to try and generate realistic looking images, like photoreal images of military stuff, just because I think it's too easy to misrepresent those kinds of images. Like if it's animated, whatever, it's not, it's obviously not a real thing that's happening. But photoreal images like that concerns me a lot.
Yeah, I think that probably falls into the same sort of rules of, manipulating official imagery. We do have to keep public trust. That's a big piece, and I'm sure at some point somebody's going to get called out for using AI to, de-age a photo or up-age a photo to, show somebody that they didn't have a photo of that specific time frame, or one of the myriad of different things that the military has been called out for in the past, for manipulating imagery. But yeah, public trust is an important thing. Definitely.
I know
it's everything,
I know Adobe's talked about making sure that the metadata you'll be able to see what AI was used and possibly the prompts specifically that were used, I think that's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, but it's also a step that's easily skirted. So
They can't stop people who want to do it. They can only make it less easy.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I wonder how the landscape will change as a result of all this stuff, as far as like the up and coming generations and what they sort of just, assume to be inaccurate and made up until it's like proven otherwise, as far as like education on things like that, because of the points that y'all brought up with, misinformation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
are my children going to know how to read, write, and do math, or are they just going to have an AI that does it all for them?
Ooh, maybe both.
These are the big questions.
Or is that going to be the same as the people who are like, you need to learn how to do math by hand because you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket at all times.
It's a reasonable point.
I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. But I guess the difference is like I still have to know how to use the calculator.
Right.
With ChatGPT, I can just give it the formula and be like, "What's the answer to this?"
Yeah, but you got to know how to talk to it.
Think critically about how it got
needs.
to that answer or anything
right.
like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For that, yeah, that's fair.
Well, thinking critically, I think is going to be the answer to a lot of this. Is I think I saw a recent example where they were showcasing AI being able to troubleshoot problems and things like that, and it gave the advice of if you're having trouble with a film camera advancing the lever, you should just open up the back and gently pull the on the film to make sure that it's moving. Yeah, that's bad advice. So
as I said earlier, the best models are trained on good data, and it turns out that the internet is not necessarily good data. It's
what
just
you mean? Everything on the internet isn't.
it.
It's not all true. People lie. Gasp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was a solid conversation there. Kind of moving on to our last segment, talking about fun tools, things that people may or may not know. Since you're our guest, Alex, why don't you start us off?
Please.
Oh, yeah. So this is a super fun one because it's free. Free is my favorite flavor, especially when it's for something that actually makes an impact. So it's the Blackmagic camera app. And but I don't use it for filming or photographing or anything. I use it for the color temperature readout that it gives you when you open it. And I use it just to kind of help me ballpark where I'm at with different lighting situations so that I can more, accurately and quickly set my camera's white balance as well as know like what I should be setting my my own lights to as far as those color temperatures. Just saves a lot of time. Just whip out the phone and be like, oh yeah, interesting. It's like 3,800 degrees Kelvin. Like, that's cool. I would not have guessed that. Instead of sitting there and looking at the screen and flipping through them and be like, okay, it's like it just takes all the guesswork out of it, and it's free. So
look at that. We don't even need light meters now.
Thank God, because those are hella expensive, and that's how this whole thing started. I was looking for
especially if you want a color
one.
meter. They're like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
expensive.
Sorry, Saconic. Saconic, send us free stuff.
And I know some of the lighting companies like Aperture, they've got a function in their app where you just point at a source and you hit source match, and if you've got an RGB light, it will match both the CCT and hue, so green, magenta shift as well.
Cool. Is that in the Citus Link?
That's
app?
in Citus Link, yeah.
And
I gotta
try that.
The Blackmagic app is really cool for a bunch of different reasons. Tyler, you're gonna like this one. If you have it in vertical mode, your phone in vertical mode, it will still shoot horizontal video.
I just opened the app and saw that, so that was
Yeah. Last episode, Tyler was wearing a hat that said "Make horizontal video." Oh, there we go. Nice. Make video horizontal again. There we go. So another thing that I personally like about it, I've got these one of these moment lenses, anamorphic, and I've got toys. I'm a gear nerd, but I'm recording my screen right now, so y'all will be able to see in post. But it actually has the anamorphic D-squeeze option in it. It's a free app that lets you do that, which most of the apps that do D-squeeze do not. They're not free, and they don't do ProRes on the newer iPhones. Which, by the way, this is iPhone only. I don't think they make an Android version of the Blackmagic camera app. So, Android users, sorry.
Get on that, Blackmagic. Fix that.
Get on that, Android users.
Yeah, but so with anamorphic lenses, they squeeze more in from the sides than they have vertically. So the D-squeeze lets you get that 2.4 to 1 aspect ratio D-squeeze built in to the app, so you're not having to D-squeeze in post, and you can frame it normally. But yeah, it's that's a big reason that I like it. Oh, and actually looking at the settings, there's enable vertical video mode. So you have to, by default, it does not even let you do vertical video. So I feel like Tyler might have preempted that. But yeah.
I didn't know. I wished that, I've the amount of people who see a video and it's like, turn your phone, then they just slide. You can't turn your phone it takes less than a second. And it's going to be cool, I promise. Do you want me to go next? You want to do yours, Sam? Yeah?
You can go next.
All right, so mine is, I saw this on a set I was working on, and I've used it a couple of times before. So I'll be honest. The amount of times you're going to use this, probably small, but you can get a 4-pack of them for $17, so it's not like they're expensive. This is a light bulb to AC adapter.
Oh, so yeah.
If you're in a situation where there's no outlets, but there are light bulbs, congratulations, you have an outlet. I was on a set, we were filming a scene in a bathroom. Bathroom didn't have any outlets, but it did have, lights. So he watched the DP screw this in, plug in his, I think, an aperture tube, and hang it from the ceiling, and that's how we lit the scene. Blew my mind a little bit, and I was like, that would be really useful. So
yeah, that's cool. Having been away from Home Depot and hardware stores, over in Italy, although they do have some, but it's not like the States. Anyway, yeah, that's not something I would have thought of to grab and throw in the kit of this is definitely useful to have. And man, that would have saved me a couple of times. So I gotta scoop one of those up.
Yeah,
most lights are battery powered capable now. That was not true not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and even if you have a light that's able to be battery powered, sometimes going off of AC is better anyway, because if you're filming for an hour plus, I think, we're over the hour mark ourselves. It may not last an hour. So if you have the ability to go off of mains power, it usually is a good idea too. And I can see that device being useful in offices as well, where,
absolutely,
yes, there's plugs, but they might not be accessible.
Can you get to them?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And in offices, this little guy.
Oh yeah.
Is that the drop ceiling?
Yeah, scissor clip adapter.
Yeah.
The camera's over here. Hello.
Yeah.
Yep. Just for putting stuff on drop ceilings.
Definitely.
It's like $10, but yeah. Sorry, I snuck in a second one there.
Okay. So my tool is lighting focused as well. That's this little guy right here. So this one's made by Godox, but I'm sure you could find these from other companies as well. And what it is it goes on to a light stand. So it's got a baby pin receiver right there. And it's got a Bowens mount, and Bowens mount is probably the most common, widely available, cheapest light modifier mount for soft boxes, for all sorts of different things. And so without having to get one of the more expensive lights, you can take a regular flash, I've got another Godox flash right here. Screw it into place. And now you can put a softbox onto a regular flash. And I can tell you right now, if you put a flash into a softbox, it is going to be so much brighter than even some of the brightest hot lights out there, video lights. So I'm a big fan of Aperture as a company, and I love their lights, and I've got quite a few myself. But I can tell you, if I'm doing a portrait outdoors in bright sunlight, I want flashes. So even something small like this, I know a lot of military public affairs offices, they will have Nikon flashes and things like that. You can trigger those. You can trigger those remotely using IR systems, and you can throw it. You know, this thing's $25, and chances are, if you've got any sort of studio for doing passport photos and things like that, you've probably got some soft boxes. There's a pretty good chance that their Bowens mount. $25, and you can have nice soft portrait lighting on location.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm just going to throw this out there because I thought of it while you were talking about powering lights. For all our, at least Air Force shooters, but even really anyone who's shooting mirrorless, most of your mirrorless cameras now can be powered by USB-C.
Very true.
So if you have 2 USB-C power cables and a brick that can plug into 2 USB-C and plug into the wall, now when you're shooting interviews with your Nikon Z whatever, you don't have to change out batteries halfway through or mess with power at all because it's being powered by the wall. So,
yeah, there's all sorts of cool power options these days. There's dummy batteries. There's all sorts of stuff. Luckily battery power is getting a lot better than it used to be, but yeah, and understanding batteries, understanding what you can do to power them off of mains power them off of bigger V-mount batteries, really can save you down the line.
Absolutely. Yeah, dummy battery for your mirrorless camera to like a gold mount or a V-mount. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have to change your battery 3 times a day. You may not have to change it at all for a couple of days.
That's what I got on this guy. Powers the camera, the monitor, whatever else I stick on it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The one thing you do have to worry about is you want to make sure that those connections are good. Because the one thing you can run into with dummy batteries is if it disconnects while it's recording a clip, it may corrupt the file. That is the one downside. So I will usually use dummy batteries if I'm doing live. Because I'm not recording anything to the camera, totally fine. You also tend to run into fewer overheating issues with dummy batteries. But if I'm doing like a long recording, I will often switch to USB-C power just simply so that I have power redundancy, not a potential failure. So,
right.
But if you're running if you're running into an Atomos recorder or something like that, that's less of an issue because, chances are that will at least you'll be able to recover that file.
Yeah, I know at least with the Sony and the Nikons, plugging into USB-C doesn't work unless the battery's in it. Mm-hmm. It also charges the battery, so if you did lose power, it should just swap right to battery and you should be good to go.
Yeah, lots of different options that are, have different advantages and disadvantages. I do know the Sonys especially, it can cause them to overheat more quickly if you're powering them over USB. Not necessarily that it will overheat, it can overheat.
Sure.
Well, cool. I think we had a good episode. Thanks, Alex, for sharing your video and letting us pick it apart a little bit.
My pleasure.
For keeping Sam and I from talking about random stuff for hours on end.
I think we still did that anyway.
A little bit.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what podcasts are great for, is just kind of BSing with good people about good topics and hopefully learning something from it. So we are going to keep trying to push these out every 2 weeks, recording these in advance so that when I inevitably get busy, I have a couple in the queue ready to go. And we look forward to seeing everybody in future episodes. I think our next one, we're looking to talk about, whenever we have these like heritage months and things like that, like Pride Month, how do you go about telling those stories? How do you do that in a way that's ethical and does justice to your subject, like we were talking about, gets those command messages, but doesn't patronize or, glorify anything? It's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm still working on getting our discussion panel for that. But in any case, create cool stuff, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Peace out.
See ya.